Okay, so we're delighted to welcome you all to the first Tivian customer webinar since our rebrand. We wanted to start with a bang, and I'm delighted to say that the 21.1 release does not disappoint. For those of you that are new to the webinars, I'm Jay Hartley, and I'm the Customer Success Manager for Tivian in the UK. And today I'm joined by Nicola, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi everybody, so I'm Jay's usual partner in crime, Nicola Matson. For those that have joined previous webinars, you probably knew me as the Head of Product Management. I actually changed roles at the beginning of March this year and currently head up our Global Professional Services team.
Thanks, Nicola. So we're going to now take a look at today's agenda. And we've got 4 very interesting topics to cover today. We're going to start with the strides that we have made in improving the performance and also a cosmetic update on the branding of EFS. Then next, Nicola is going to walk us through the exciting and long-awaited launch of our native dashboards for guides. And there's also going to be a great demo of those today. It will then be back to me, and I'm going to look at a number of changes we've made to support EX. I'm particularly excited to show you our big leap forward in text analytics. Then it's back to Nicola, who's going to talk through the improvements we have made to both the support processes that we use and also the way you guys are going to be able to interact with those. And as always, we'll close out the session with a Q&A. So please post your questions via the option on your webinar menu. So, as you know, we strive to bring you lots of new features and functionality. And whilst we want you to be able to use these things, we never ignore what goes on underneath the hood. So over the past couple of years, we've been on a journey to refine the underlying architecture of EFS. And we've already made lots of changes which have improved performance. However, with 21.1, we've made huge strides forward through the upgrade of our underlying scripting language, PHP. This means that we're now able to deliver faster page loads across the site, and under performance testing, we have seen the baseline improvement in performance of more than 20%. The graph above shows basically a snapshot of the server load between the current version, the blue line, and the new 21.1 version in the yellow. And this is done whilst both are being undertaken for the same tasks. It's a bit geeky, but it does demonstrate 2 things very clearly. First of all, that the load from the newer version is consistently lower than the current version. And also it's much more stable when performing tasks. You can see that the old version, the blue line, has several spikes during that window, and this would mean a slower user experience in these moments. We're therefore delighted that as soon as you receive your upgrade to 21.1, which won't be too far away for many of you, you're going to see a visible performance improvement. And on the cosmetic note, we've rebranded to Tivian. EFS was a little behind catching up. So we've now updated both the logo and the fave icon. So don't worry if you're suddenly seeing different logos. It's the same platform underneath. It's just the logo that's changed at this stage. So I'm now going to hand over to Nicola, and she's going to take us through some dashboards.
Thanks, Jay. So as Jay said, these are the sort of long-awaited dashboards. I feel like I've done a number of presentations over the course of the last year, talking to customers and to prospects about the native dashboarding capability that we were building into EFS. And I am absolutely delighted to say that these will be launching with our 21.1 release. And also that as this is part of very much our new modern architecture for EFS, the dashboards will be on what we call continuous integration and continuous delivery. And what that means is that whilst we'll still have the significant EFS upgrades, actually for the dashboarding, we can release new features and capability really as frequently as we want. That's likely to be every 2 weeks, but it means that we can continuously improve the experience of our customers that are using the dashboards. But just to explain a little bit about the dashboarding, so for those of you that do a lot of data analysis within EFS, you'll know that we have a number of different ways of providing tools for our customers to analyse the results of their surveys and really to withdraw some meaning and understanding and insights from that data. We have our report manager module that allows the mass generation of PDF and PowerPoint reports to be pushed out to all managers within an organisation with their specific data. We have our Reporting Plus module, which is more of a DIY that lets you do some basic statistical analysis. And then many of our customers are using our My Site module, which is an inbuilt ETL that allows us to take the data from surveys and display them through custom Tableau dashboards. And those Tableau dashboards are fantastic, they're not going away, but they do have some limitations. So Tableau is fantastic for deep sort of business intelligence analysis, for really diving into the data, but it isn't really a platform that is designed for very, very high concurrency and high performance. So what we're building in addition, and what we launch on June 22nd and 23rd, are our new native dashboards. In the first iteration, they will work with our guides. So for those of you that don't use guides, those are both basically surveys that you build in EFS but expose to your users through our portals module, and then there's a self-service workflow that allows your users to send those surveys out to any number of people across the business. And these new dashboards will simply hook into those surveys and those guides. And what can you expect with the new dashboards? I think one of the most important things is a very, very quick setup time. So for those of you that use our templated Tableau dashboards, you'll know that that's still typically a couple of days to set those up. If you have custom dashboards, a significantly longer amount of time for us to design, build and test those dashboards. With the new native dashboarding, we will have templates of best practice dashboard designs that you can actually configure and set up literally in a couple of minutes. They allow us to reuse a lot of the capability. So I'll show this actually live in the dashboards, but as we build out new visualizations, new graph types, those can actually be used in subsequent templates that we build to the dashboards as well. There's a very modern user experience, so a really nice, simple look and feel, but also very high performance. I will be demoing today on a dev environment because I say we launched the new version June 22nd, 23rd, so they're not quite as super fast as they will be in our production environment, but you'll see sub-second page load times. And also they facilitate a new use case that we haven't been able to support in the past around real-time access to survey results. So for example, if you're running maybe an all hands for your employees or a customer event where you want to distribute a survey and get feedback from your customers or from your employees, you might have the dashboard actually up on a big screen behind you, and as people complete the survey, the pages will automatically update. So you'll see new scores, or if you've got the comments view open, you'll see those new comments streaming in as people complete the survey. And very importantly is this high concurrency. So these dashboards have been designed to support tens of thousands of people accessing the dashboard data at exactly the same point in time, which means we really can start to democratize the results of the surveys that you're sending out. In our version 1, so with the 21.1 release, we'll have 3 templates available, but as I say, we will continue to build out more templates over time. I can see actually a question, is there a standard dashboard for the topic guide? Do you know, I apologize, I actually don't know the answer to that. I'd need to check. I think we can use these dashboards with the topic guide since it's also a guide, but let me double check and we'll get back to you on that. I say 3 templates initially, but we'll continue to launch more templates over time. Actually, the next template that we're working on at the moment is a standardized engagement dashboard that will work with our employee survey type. Now, that will actually be reliant on the next release of EFS because we'll be launching a new guide type as well. But some of the other dashboards, I say we can release those and have you use them at any point in time. So the 3 templates we launch with, the first is what we call a single category template. So this is really for use with simple surveys, as the name suggests, that have typically less than sort of 10 questions on one particular topic or category. Then we have a multi-category template. Again, says what it does on the tin. So this is typically for surveys where you've got multiple categories or constructs or dimensions, whatever you call them. And it will include things like aggregate scores for those categories and overall aggregate scores as well. And then the third template type that we are launching with is a multi-rater dashboard. So that will be used with our standard Leadership 360 offering. But again, that is simply a specific guide type. So if you want to have your own multi-rater feedback, whether that be about leadership, whether it be about sales capabilities, you can use that guide and this new dashboard template. So let's go in and actually take a look at what those look like. So let me just quickly end my presentation and move over here. So what you're looking at here is a portal. So again, for those that aren't using portals, it's a simple web page that basically allows you to surface all of the capability of EFS without the user needing to log into the administrative backend. So they can do things like send surveys, complete surveys, look at results, do action planning, manage the users, which actually is brand new, and Jay will be talking about that shortly. But I'm going to look specifically at the new dashboards. As we mentioned, they're tied to guides, and I've got 3 guides here. So these are basically 3 templated surveys that we built in EFS and then made available through the portal interface. So the first one we'll look at is a simple single category. So we've got a survey around job satisfaction. It's already been sent out, so I'm going to come straight over to my status and into the results area. Now, the templates themselves are configurable. So for each of the different template types, there's different configurations, and this is how we can set these up very quickly. So for example, with this dashboard type, you can configure things like the branding, so the color scheme that you want to use, whether or not you want to use a % favorable or a mean score as part of the results. If you want to apply anonymity so that you can't drill down based on the number of responses to the survey. You can include things like standard deviation, medians, you can configure the filters and the breakouts as well, which I'll show you in a second. So here I can see, I've got a certain number of questions around that one theme. I can see that I've got some comments, which I can quickly come in and see. I can see some basic response rate information. So I see 4 invites, 4 responses. And here you see I've got this live data update toggle. So a bit difficult for me to demo this today, but if I turned that on and this survey was still out in the field and people were completing it, as I was walking you through this, you might suddenly see the page refresh and the numbers change because actually somebody else has completed the survey. So I can drill into each question, see the responses, and this is where for this particular template I have configured to turn standard deviation on. And we also have the ability to filter these results. So at the moment, I'm looking at all 4 responses, but if I come into this filter area, and again, this is configurable, so you decide what information you want to be able to configure on, be that information that the respondee has provided in the survey or information that you already know about them. As I filter, you'll see it's refreshing all of that information now to only show me the responses from people who are line managers within the organization. And if I look now, you can see that I've filtered out one person's results. I can still see the original results for all 4, but I can see what the new scores are for the 3, and I can see what the new standard deviation is. We also have this explore area where I can do some breakouts. So this basically allows me to start to slice and dice the data a little bit more. And again, it's configurable in terms of what information. So I might be interested to look at how the results vary based on whether or not someone is a line manager, or I might want to look at work area. And again, if these are surveys going out to your customers, this might be things like the priority level of the customer, maybe the type of services that they're purchasing for you. So here I can look at how all of those respondees reply to the results based on the specific work area that they belong to. And then finally, we have this inbuilt sort of pop-up help. So we can actually explain to the user, things like, what do we mean by % favorable? How do we calculate it? What does the trend bar here mean? So we can just really make it as simple and easy as possible for the user to understand the results that they're seeing. Now, to look at the other results templates, I could go back to that home page and go to my next guide, but actually all of the results are available in one place. So once I've navigated through to one set of results, I don't need to navigate all the way back through the portal. I can simply use the filter options here. So here I get my list of guides. So you remember we had 3 that I showed you. I'm going to move over now to my multi-category guide around remote work experience. I can see which teams or groups of people the survey was sent to, and specific waves or dates that the survey was sent. So I'm going to take a look at the most recent. So you'll see this template looks slightly different because, as I say, we've got these multiple categories, each of which have their own questions. We've got the same sort of pop-up, but now it's giving me explanations around different parts of this template, so things like historical trends, so I can see how this overall aggregate score compares to the last time this survey was sent out for this team. So I can see actually this team is improving over time. So I can still drill again into each category, much like we saw in the single category template. I can see if the individual scores for each question are trending up or down, if this is a survey I've sent multiple times to the same group of people. And again, I can drill in and look at that distribution across the different respondees. Again, comments looks much like we saw before. We've got the same response rates, and this is this reusability. So as we design new sort of widgets that we put into these templates, we can apply those to future dashboard templates that we design. Now you'll notice when I went into that individual question area, I didn't have that same breakout that we saw in the single category, and that's because in the multi-category template, we have a slightly different view that basically allows you to do the same thing, but with a bit more flexibility. So I can come in now and explore my results. And again, this is configurable. I've just got one field here, but I could have a number of different pieces of information about your employees or about your customers that allow you to sort of deep dive into this data. So here I can see, for example, in terms of remote work experience, the females that have replied to this survey have rated much more low around sort of general health and well-being. So that might be something that I want to tackle and pick up with the females in my workforce. And then final template, again, I'll just switch over to my third guide type, which is that multi-rater feedback. So we have a out-of-the-box offering called 360 Leadership, or you can configure this yourself based on whether it's your own leadership framework or if you're doing multi-rater feedback on other things like sales capability. And again, the same filters around sort of who that relates to. So typically with the multi-rater, there's a target persona. In this case, it's Jane. And again, the dates that this was completed. And I think I've got to just move back to a slightly earlier one that I think's got more data. So here, again, a very different dashboard design that's tailored very much to that type of multi-rater survey. I won't click on it, but again, same sort of on-screen help to guide you through how the dashboard works. But in this case now, we've got these idea of strengths and development areas. And within each of those, we'll have two components. So for strengths, we'll have actual strengths or known strengths and hidden strengths. So known strengths being where your level of self-awareness is quite high and how you evaluate your own capability in terms of that leadership behavior or skill is quite closely aligned with those people that have observed that behavior in you. A hidden strength is where actually maybe you think you're quite a poor performer in that area, but those that work with you would disagree. And those hidden strengths and the counter to that for development areas is what we call blind spots, are really the most critical things to notice as an individual because they help build that self-awareness. And they also help inform when you should be leaning on others for help and when perhaps you don't need to. Obviously, I can drill into this by the different rater groups, so the different groups of people that have provided feedback for me. Same view exactly if I went into the development areas. And then we have, similar to the heat map, but this time looking at the results of this evaluation of my leadership performance by the different individuals or groups of individuals as compared to my own self-assessment, my own evaluation of my capabilities. And I can look at this either in absolute terms, and I can see that I've rated myself quite low in terms of support and development, or I can look at it relative to self. So what are the biggest differences in terms of how I've evaluated my own capabilities versus those that work with me and their evaluation of my skills? So fairly rapid run through, but let's say those are the three templates. They'll be available in the 21.1 release for anybody that's using portals and guides. It's very simple as say a couple of minutes to simply configure a new guide and pick which templated dashboard you'd like to use and apply the different configuration settings that I talked about. Back over to you, Jay.
Thanks very much, Nicola. I'm just going to switch to my view. And that's great. So as mentioned at the top of the session, I'm now going to spend a bit of time talking through and demonstrating some other changes in EFS that will really support EX activities. So starting off with the ideation guide and the addition of voucher participation. So Many of you will have seen the ideation guide before in recent demonstrations and webinars. It's essentially a collaboration tool that enables you to carry out voting on action areas or things and topics that you want to discuss. However, this guide was actually one that wasn't supported with kind of a blue collar workflow or offline vouchers. This was due to various complications of managing the access to the portal during that voting stage of the process, but it's been solved in 21.1 with a magic link voucher, and that effectively creates a temporary user within the system at the relevant stage and allows each offline user the ability to participate just the once with a voucher, and that's something that will be shared with them via either the manager or through an email. So in this way, you can make sure that people that maybe aren't just sat at a desktop on a regular basis can be involved in those processes. So that's really good add to the ideation module. Next, and this is one we're actually going to do a demo of in a little moment or two, so I'll just kind of cover this off at a high level. Up until now, there's not been a very easy or effective way to manage users within portals. You have had to always rely on a bit of support from our services team to get things in the right places. However, we've now got a new module called the user management module, and it's designed for you and your HR managers to make use of. It basically allows you as an HR manager to be set up as a portal user, and then you will be able to then create and manage other portal users within the organization. So for example, if we were looking at the survey managers earlier, so the people that can create guides, you can now set up somebody new and give them access so that they can run their own guides. It means that you can push this kind of user management out through your organization. You don't need to worry about getting EFS admin licenses, and it will really enhance your use of guides throughout the business. And then the final one that I'm going to be spending a bit of time demoing is our text analytics solution. And I think this is probably our next biggest addition. I mean, the performance improvement is going to be great. The native dashboard's also really good. And then this one coming on stream at the same time is going to really open up the possibilities for kind of, I guess, analyzing the content and the feedback that you're going to gain through your EX programs. So I think this is something that everybody's been asking for. And it's now something that we will be able to deliver on a per project basis, because unlike the native dashboards, there are some services required to get it up and running. However, what you're then presented with is a huge leap forward for us. The aim of it is to essentially ensure that you can quickly surface insights from large amounts of comment data without anybody that's viewing the dashboards needing to be an expert in text analysis. Effectively, the hard work is being done in the background. So what we've actually done is we've designed an underlying EX model with experts in the field and produced a standard EX taxonomy. This in itself is then enhanced by machine learning algorithm. So as more comment data comes in, it's going to learn more and it's going to be able to categorize more information that's coming out your business. So hopefully that's going to lead to much more accurate categorizations and also categorizations that are going to grow. So if you've got new topics that pop up, the system's going to be able to identify those and start presenting them back to you as HR managers or indeed any of your exec team. It's then presented back, and we're going to have a look at these in a minute, a suite of excellent visualizations which have been designed to be very simple and intuitive to use. Now, as you know, we never just focus on shiny new things. We also look at things that are maybe little bugbears in the system or things that could just be enhanced and just improve user experience. So we've got a handful of these that are also going into 21.1. Not going to do a demo of these, but I'll just quickly run through them now. So we've got a couple of changes in the report model. report module. So up until now, any reports that were manually kind of ordered by an end user didn't always have perfect naming conventions. We're going to tidy this up so that any report that gets ordered now will come with the report name and then the first and last name of the person who initiated the guide and their ID, so that as a as an HR team, if you're trying to manage that, or if you've got a lot of guides going on, you're easily going to be able to identify the report that you've just got created. In addition, we know that sometimes guides become obsolete, and so you need to move on to other things. And again, up until now, you haven't been able to delete those. The good news is with 21.1, you're going to be able to do so, and that's going to hopefully reduce any confusion and concern in the business. We've then got a couple of changes that we're making to guide process monitoring. So we've added a detailed view of the export that you get from the ideation guides, and this is going to help you now because you're going to be able to see the statistics of every activity that was undertaken during the process, such as who was invited or how many people made a suggestion during the process. So it's going to help you keep track of things and also sort of assess how well the process maybe went. And then the second thing is we're adding a change so that any wave that gets deleted, any guide wave that gets deleted, will then be shown in the list view. Up until now, it was deleted and it vanished. And so you might get a bit of confusion there because people are asking you about a particular guide. At least this way, you know if it's been deleted, you'll be able to check back on that as well. The final two focus on the Me guide. So again, this is the kind of multi-rater offering. So again, this one will actually now give you more information on rater group participation after the process has closed. So this means if for example you get to the end of the Me guide and you haven't generated a report, you can go in and you can now see which rater groups did or didn't complete the feedback for you, so you can understand why that didn't happen. And if you want to start a new one, you can maybe reach out to those individuals and just say, look, explain the importance of it for you, and then move forward that way. And then the final one is around the survey. And again, just a little tiny enhancement. In the past, when you imported a project, you were having to put in the specific project type that you wanted to import, and sometimes people would get this wrong, and then you'd end up with a bit of confusion initially with people trying to do things that they couldn't do because it was the wrong project type. Now you can actually set, and it's set by default, you can basically make the system pick out from the import process what is the correct survey type for that project, ensuring that when it comes in, it's the same as it was in the original, and you're going to just avoid those challenges. So without further ado, I'm just going to move into a demo. So I'm just going to switch screens now to the system. And as I said, we're going to start looking at user management. So as you can see, it's quite a simple layout. You've got three main areas. You've got kind of the area where you can invite users. I'm just going to move up the screen a little bit. You've got a table containing a searchable list of users. And then on the right hand side here, you've kind of got the management section where you can do different things. You could change some content or reset the users. So let's take a look at how I might go about inviting some users. So you can just start by typing in the email address. Now, if as you're creating this, you want to add some additional info such as their name, you can do so by clicking that option there. And then I just click add to list. Now, the other thing you can do at this stage is if you are putting people into particular portals groups because you want those people to be assigned to certain things, then again, you can choose to add them into a group here. If you don't need to, you can just click invite, and that email is going to go straight to that individual. Just whilst on this page though, I just wanted to show, if I take this out, if you've got a large number of individuals to add, you might not want to do that on an individual basis. So again, the system allows you to download a CSV template, and that's just a very simple template with email, name and last name. You can then click on here to browse to your the relevant place where that file exists, and then you'll be able to upload everybody and invite them all in one go. But if I just quickly go back and put myself in, add myself back into that list and click invite, we can now see if I search for me here that you've got my new account in there. Now, when you're adding somebody, that might be enough, because if you just need them to be somebody who's going to be potentially invited to a 360 process, you don't need to do much more. However, if you want them to be able to start their own guides, then you might want to change their account type. So, or if you want them to be somebody who can use this module, you might want to change them to the relevant option. So if I want them to have access to guides, I click Survey Manager here, and then that would ensure that they can then create their own guides. If I want them to have access to this user management section, then I'm going to click on the HR Manager user, and that will give them access to that area of the system. You can see here that it's changed that there. The other things you can do are resend the invite. So if somebody comes to you and says they haven't received the invite, you've just got a little icon there that you click. That's going to send that same email to them. Similarly, if somebody comes to you and says, I can't remember my password, rather than have to contact support, you can now just click this option, and it's going to send them an automatic email to be able to reset their own password. And then the final thing is, if they've left the business and they're no longer part of your enterprise and you don't want them to be in here, you can click delete, which will take them out of the system. The good news is it takes them out of this section. It doesn't take them out of the overall underlying system. So if somebody were to do that by mistake, you would be able to contact support and we'd be able to reinstate them. So that closes the user management. I'm now going to take a look at the text analysis. So what I'm showing you now is effectively the output of the heavy lifting of the analysis that has been carried out already. So what we've got here are 3 separate and interactive dashboards. The first of these is the manager dashboard, which you can make available to any of your managers within the business. And what it's going to show them is an overall of the total comments that are provided for their team, or by their team rather. So you can see how many people provided some comments. You can also see a comparison of the most common themes that were selected, and also it's broken down by your kind of most engaged employees, your kind of neutral, and then your least engaged. So there's a bit of analysis being done there to identify the type of individual that is, and you can see the variance between the 3 and kind of try and understand what it is that you need to potentially do to bring some of these least engaged colleagues forward. The next graph that you can see is the top 10 trending themes. So there are about 62 themes, I think, at present within the model. So this is not everything, but what this is doing is pulling out the top 10 themes that have been mentioned by the whole population. And again, it gives you the rank and a nice little comparison to overall. So for this particular manager, you can see that it's quite similar for the top 3. However, he's got, or she has got, amazing learning opportunities being selected at number 4, whereas actually overall for the business, this was only 10. So that's an area of insight for this manager. It's kind of giving him the tools to kind of surface quick insight without needing to kind of be an expert in the field. And then the final thing is at the bottom, it shows all of the comments for that individual team, plus whether the comment was provided by an engaged or a disengaged individual. Now, this being an interactive dashboard, you can do some filtering. So if I want to click on this little icon here, it's going to cut down the tables below to just those individuals, sorry, to the people who are my most engaged, so I can get a feel for, in my engaged, very quickly, which are their most important, and compare it to whether or not it changes to the rest of the business. The other thing that I can do is I can also filter on compensation, for example. So if I select that theme, what that's then going to do is it's going to cut down the list below further, and you can see here now that it's just got the 2 comments. So again, it's allowing people to drill down into the data themselves, to follow the stories that look interesting to them, and hopefully be able to support their team to become more if you know, engaged, to perform better as a team. The next dashboard that I want to take a look at is the executive dashboard, also the executive. And effectively, this is a rolled up view of the manager dashboard in many cases. So it looks very familiar. So again, if you're an executive that's got access to much broader parts of the business, so you can see here that the team that's identified here is people company, which is the overall business, and the look and feel and the functionality is the same. So it's consistent. It's just on that bigger scale. If you're an executive and you've got access to larger sections of the business, you can click this option here and pick the specific area of the business that you might want to start delving down into. So whilst you might want to look at the overall, it might be that you want to delve down into corporate banking, for example, or financial control. So again, it's allowing you to kind of quickly slice the data by the areas that you want. Again, the top 2 graphs are looking very familiar. The next graph that you've got, which is quite different, is kind of your demographics. So again, when you're running your EX survey, you're likely to be capturing during the feedback or through some kind of HR upload different demographics for the individuals. And again, this is plotting it against the theme, again, in the order of which, in the top 10 order, and you're going to be able to see kind of where the mentions are coming through for some of these areas. So for example, you can see here that Australia is mentioning your products and services much more frequently than any other element that they're seeing. So it's again something that's quite useful. If I were to filter this by length of service, again, what that's then doing is changing that view so that you can see, maybe pick out trends. So, you know, typically we might see things being pulled out that, you know, once you've been somewhere for 10 years, for example, maybe it's the culture, you might see that's being picked up more frequently in your population that have been there for a longer period of time. And then the next graph, which is again quite different to the manager view, is your comparator, and you can see what's happening here. It's plotting each of those 10 themes against a graph which is showing your less engaged individuals over to the left against your more engaged, and then again how frequently something is being selected is being plotted in this direction. So compensation overall is being very frequently picked out by 22% of your population, whereas down here you've got lots of things that are only being picked out by 4 or 5% of your population. However, this graph then comes to life a little bit more if I go back to the top here and I actually filter it by financial control. And then go back to the graph. You can see here now that what I'm actually now seeing is the people company ranking as plotted against the financial control ranking. So this is where you start to get a little bit more instant insight. So for example, if I look at down here, I can see here that we've got our kind of, I guess IT and technology has been picked out by kind of a handful of people within the overall business, but they are generally towards the engaged side. However, all the way over here, we can see that the people that are picking this out are quite disengaged. So it might be that for financial control, I need to start speaking to these individuals a bit more, understanding what their problems are with IT and technology, and then maybe I can understand why they are disengaged, and I can actually then start maybe trying to bring them up, deal with some of those challenges, and actually help them to understand a little bit more, how to improve their experience of working for my organization. And then the final one that I need to look at is the infographic. And this is really just a snapshot, and it will be filtered by the theme and the business area that you selected in the previous screen. And again, you can change that here. But again, it's giving you a quick snapshot of the number of mentions, where it's been most frequently mentioned if you're a global organization. It gives you the split between the percentages of women and men, and also anybody that identifies as other. It also gives you a breakdown against a couple of other demographics, so the service. So again, you can see it's the people in this bracket that are maybe selecting it more frequently. It gives you a split here by the organization, so the people that work with sales more globally, they're the ones that are also picking this out. And then the final thing is what's it linked to. So again, you've got the co-occurrence ranking here, and that indicates whether or not for that particular theme, it indicates that when mentioned, it's linked to things like amazing learning opportunities. So again, maybe somebody needs a bit of an upskill in their IT to help them get more enjoyment from their role. And I will now go back to my slide deck and hand to Nicola.
Great, thanks, Jay. So just in the last couple of minutes of today's webinar, just wanted to reiterate what hopefully you're all aware of. You should have all hopefully received an email informing you about changes to our support process going forward. It's definitely a change for the better. So previously, if you'd had an issue with the EFS platform, you would email our support email address or potentially call the support line. What you'll be able to do now is actually log directly into our new support portal. You can see the URL on the screen at the moment. And this is really a one-stop shop where you can manage, track and view all of the support cases from one place. So rather than having to sort of file away lots of different emails relating to issues you might be having, hopefully not very many issues, you'll be able to come into this very simple to use platform and simply log tickets to our support team. You'll be able to interact with the support team and answer questions they may have all through the portal, rather than needing to do that through individual emails. What we'll also be doing over time is building out a sort of knowledge base within the Tivian support portal. So you'll be able to access things like how-tos, to just get some basic guidance if we're seeing certain trends in terms of typical questions that are being asked that aren't potentially problems with the platform, but maybe a lack of knowledge or understanding about how to use it, then we'll obviously add those into the knowledge base going forward. So hopefully you can get some simple answers as well without needing to go directly to the support team. So if you haven't already, I would definitely recommend bookmarking the URL that you see on the page now. There's a very simple registration process that you'll just need to go through the first time to create a username and password. And then after that, you'll be able to go in and manage all of those support tickets and look at all of that knowledge base articles. And then, Jay, I'm conscious we've got 1 minute left. We've got 2 questions remaining, although actually I think one might be more of an issue that someone's having. But Emily has a question: when is 21.1 coming out? So we will be upgrading all of our customers on our US AWS data center on June 22nd, and all of our customers on our Central European AWS data center on June 23rd. If you're still on our data group data center, because as hopefully everyone knows, we're currently going through a year-long program to migrate all customers onto the AWS public cloud. But if you're still on our legacy data group data center, then you won't be upgraded in June, but you'll be upgraded as part of that migration, and you should hopefully have received communications and know when your installation will be being migrated. And then Sue, I think that should be Sue, potentially has an issue. Jay, I don't know if this is something you're familiar with, but the comment just says when importing projects, custom code triggers are cleared out. if that's not something we can look into.
No, I'm not, but what I'll do is I'll take a note of that and I will get back to Sue.
Perfect. And then I did get an answer just on the topic guide from Marcus. So unfortunately, I'm afraid that the new dashboards don't currently work with the topic guide. So that's something that we'll need to be adding on in a future iteration of those dashboards.
Well, one final question. In the native dashboard templates, there was a tile called Next Steps. How can content be managed there from Jan?
Yeah, so great question, Jan, and apologies that I didn't cover that off in the demo. So we will have the ability to either load our own content. So if you would like us to build out some sort of best practice materials based on the subject area of the survey or of the guide, we can do that. Or if you have your own content, so your own documentation or videos or content that you'd like to point or direct the dashboard consumer to, then we can simply load that in for you as well.
That's great. Thank you, Nicola. Okay, well, thanks everybody for joining us. Slightly overrun by a minute or two, but I hope the questions were worth waiting for at the end. All that's left to say is thank you once again to Nicola for her support, and I look forward to seeing you, as many of you as possible, on the next webinar, which should be next month at some point.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.